Hi guys, Shweli Dash is welcoming you at the Pharmacy Crash Course Division in the Knowledge Club online. I came today with the Electrocardiograph, means ECG or EKG. In previous episode we learned about cardiac cycle. EKG helps the clinician to diagnose problems associated with the electrical activity of the heart. Today we will learn about the ECG, its medicine form, so let's start. First we have to know about refractory period. Defined as the time from phase 0 until the next possible depolarization of a myocyte. That is, once enough fast sodium channels have recovered as TMP decreases below minus 50 mP. Cardiomyocytes have a longer refractory period than other muscle cells given the long plateau from slow calcium channels phase 2. This is a physiological mechanism allowing sufficient time for the ventricles to empty and refill prior to the next contraction. Different degrees of refractoriness are encountered during an action potential, reflecting the number of fast sodium channels that have recovered from their inactive state and are capable of reopening. Absolute refractory period means ARP. The cell is completely unexcitable to a new stimulus. Next, effective refractory period, ERP. ERP means ARP plus short segment of phase 3 during which a stimulus may cause the cell to depolarize minimally but not all result in a propagated action potential. That means the neighboring cells will not depolarize. Next, relative refractory period, RRP. A greater than normal stimulus will depolarize the cell and cause an action potential. Supranormal period, a hyperexcitable period during which a weaker than normal stimulus will depolarize the cells and cause an action potential. Cells in this phase are particularly susceptible to arrhythmias when exposed to an inappropriately timed stimulus, which is why one must synchronize the electrical stimulus during cardioversion to prevent inducing ventricular fibrillation. In ECG machine, by carefully placement of surface electrodes on the body, it is possible to record the complex compound electrical signal of the heart. This tracing of the electrical signal is the electrocardiogram, means ECG, also commonly abbreviated EKG. K coming cardiology, letter K. Cardiology from the German term for cardiology. Carefully, analysis of the ECG reveals a detailed picture of both normal and abnormal heart function and is an indispensable clinical diagnostic tool. EKG reflects the overall spread of electrical activity during the cardiac cycle and is measurable because the electrical activity of many of the cells are synchronized during the cell. The current technique of recording the EKG employs Enthoven's triangle, which is an imaginary triangle that surrounds the heart with its corners at the right and left arms and the left leg. These correspond to places where electrodes are placed. Pairs of electrodes, means leads, are compared and are given Roman numerical designations, means lead 1, lead 2, lead 3, lead 12, with one designating a positive electrode and the other a negative electrode. So this ECG machine produces a graph. The parts of the image in graph are: number 1, the P wave, upward deflection associated with atrial depolarization. Number 2, QRS complex. Upward and downward deflection associated with ventricular depolarization corresponds with phase 0 of the ventricular contractile cells. These terms we heard at the cardiac cycle chapter in previous episode, right? Step 3, the T wave. Upward deflection associated with ventricular repolarization in phase 3. It is important to remember that the EKG represents the patterns of action potentials in populations of contractile cells and not that of an individual cell. Certain intervals and segments of the ECG can provide important information about the function of the heart. That is, the PQ interval gives an estimate of the time of conduction through the AV node. QT interval gives an estimate of the time the ventricles are contracting. TQ interval gives an estimate of the time the ventricles are relaxing. RR interval is the time between heartbeats. Dividing 60 by this time gives the heart rate. As example, we can see abnormal electrical activity. That is the sinus tachycardia or sinus bradycardia. In sinus tachycardia, abnormally fast resting heart rate greater than 100 beats per minute. In sinus bradycardia, abnormally slow resting heart rate less than 50 beats per minute. In case of altered conduction through the AV node, the first degree heart block delay in AV node shows an increased PQ interval. Number 2, the second degree heart block. Conduction through the AV node does not always occur. This is indicated by the occasional absence of QRS complex and T wave after P wave, also known as Mobitz 1 or Wenckebach periodicity, is almost always a disease of the AV node. Number 3 example, the third degree heart block. Conduction through AV node does not occur at all. Ventricular contraction occurs independent of stimulation from the AV node. However, the rate is very slow, 30 to 40 times per minute, because it is determined by the rate of bundle of his fibers discharge. Stimuli outside of normal conduction pathway may cause an extra contraction called extrasystole. In the atrium, it is called a premature atrial contraction, means PAC. Premature atrial contraction. In the ventricle, it is called a premature ventricular contraction. PVC, premature ventricular contraction. PVC. And the fibrillation occurs when the cardiac muscle no longer displays synchronous depolarization. Atrial fibrillation is lack of synchronous depolarization of atria and is not life-threatening. Ventricular fibrillation is lack of synchronous depolarization of ventricles and is incompatible with life-threatening. In the event that the electrical activity of the heart is severely disrupted, cessation of electrical activity or fibrillation may occur. In fibrillation, the heart beats in a wide, uncontrolled manner, which prevents it from being able to pump efficiently. Atrial fibrillation is a serious condition, but as long as the ventricles continue to pump blood, the patient's life may not be in immediate danger. But in ventricular fibrillation is a medical emergency that requires life support. Because the ventricles are not effectively pumping blood in a hospital setting, it is often described as code blue. If untreated for as little as a few minutes, ventricular fibrillation may lead to brain death. the most common treatment is defibrillation, which uses special paddles to apply a charge to the heart from an external electrical source in an attempt to establish a normal sinus rhythm. A defibrillator effectively stops the heart so that the SA node can trigger a normal conduction cycle. So we learned about ECG. I think it's very easy to understand right now. This chapter is also an important part of heart physiology for pharmacology study. Revise all episodes on heart thoroughly. I made it step by step accordingly. Here the all previous episodes list on heart anatomy and physiology. You will get all links at discussion part of this video, or you can visit our channel. Next episode we will discuss on heart sound. Before ending today's episode, if you like this video, then like, share and comment freely, and don't forget to subscribe our channel. After subscribing our channel, please click on the bell button to get our updates regularly. Stay with us regularly and also can follow another section Itihash Kotha with Mr. Soumitra Banerjee, where you can know the true history of India. I am coming with another episode on very shortly. Till then, goodbye.